So I have a question for you though,
Okay.
because I know when we were chit chatting, I was like, we could talk about whatever, and I brought up aliens and UFOs and all this stuff, right?
Hmm.
Now, if an alien came to visit Earth and haunted you, like they selected you of all people, what's
Okay.
the first song you would show them?
The first song I would show them. Well, first of all, I would feel pretty flattered that they chose to stalk me out of everyone on the earth. First song I would show them. Um, Probably something by Grimes, but she's basically an alien herself, so they might already feel familiar with that.
Yeah, I mean, what if they're already like, bumping her music on a spaceship?
Oh my word. Well, I mean, she was planning to be one of the first Martians, so it makes sense, right?
Is she the one that was married to Elon, or are they still married?
They they have a kid together. I guess they never officially got married, but
Is it the weird name kid?
yes. It's like A-12. Sounds like a plane model or something.
Yeah, I hope they give him an actual name and that's not his actual name, because that would be weird.
Apparently he goes by X for short, so that's a little more normal, maybe.
Maybe, perhaps, but okay. Let's have you introduce yourself real quick then, and go from
Okay.
there.
Well, yeah, my name is Cindy Manwill. The stage name is Desleal or Deslil. I don't care. Either one works. Um, I have done a lot of artsy things over the years. When I was younger, I was a dancer, I was a ballerina, and then I've been singing for a long time. And then I did some musical theater. And then post high school graduation, I got the film and commercial acting, which is how you and I got connected. And I haven't done a ton with that in the past couple of years. I've been focusing on writing songs and learning to produce music.
Yeah, you kind of went off the grid on social media.
I did. I was on quite the hiatus.
Yeah, and then when you came back with a full swing, being like, "Surprise! I have a rebrand." Is that fair to call it?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
So, what inspired the rebrand?
Whew, man, that's like kind of a loaded question, but I'm here for it.
Call me out on it.
um, what inspired it? Well, yeah, let's get into the nitty gritty. I did say no topics were off limits. So
We don't have to talk about it if you don't want, but
no, I'm down. I mean, I have to. So when I first started this music project, it was probably like 2016, and I went by the name Leal, which is Spanish for loyal. My mom is Peruvian, so that's how I have the connection to Spanish. So yeah, it meant loyal, and at the time, I I mean, people probably remember a very different version of me. I was quite religious, and basically I picked that name because I saw it as, trying to stay loyal to the religious organization that I was a part of.
right.
The past 2 years have been just a lot of change, paradigm shift, worldview shift, and I found that the name no longer resonated. So I changed it to Desleal to signify, yeah, those changes. And a fun part about the rebrand is just going all out. Like, part of the reason I wanted to do this is because, well, one, I just love playing dress up. Like, it's just fun.
Yeah.
Wouldn't I? um, and I feel like it, ironically, makes me feel more comfortable to share possibly more vulnerable things about myself. I feel like it simultaneously both protects and exposes me.
Yeah. It's a huge step forward, when you take a different path and not know what it's going to hold, because it's not how you were taught to view the world, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not how people remember me. Like I was a full-on missionary, dude.
Seriously?
I mission, yeah.
See, because I didn't know you that well,
No.
like we discussed before, it's probably just that festival run-ins or
Yeah.
mutual friends in the network. But yeah, they all had positive stuff to say about you, but I've never really known you, so it's kind of fun to see the rebrand because all of a sudden it's like Instagram's like, oh, you haven't posted in a while, so we're gonna up your first photo, right?
And is that how
And
the algorithm works?
I have no idea. Because I don't get on Instagram often, like probably like once a week, if that, just like casually scrolling.
Yeah.
But your photo was like one of the first ones that popped up. I'm like, is that Cindy? Like, wait, what? It's totally, but I think it's cool. I think it's pretty rad. And you definitely have, it seems like you have a plan for it all, which is kind of fun.
A plan?
Do you have a plan? No plan? Oh, no plan.
Well, I mean, I guess I do. We're seeing how it pans out, though.
So what kind of like is your music going to change then, like going forward? Because you said you're working on producing new stuff. Is it going to like be a little bit different than what you've shared before, or?
Yeah. So before I was having the hardest time, like even deciding what genre I wanted to be. That's so hard, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure even as like a filmmaker, it's like, the type of movies you make, you gotta like commit to it, right?
Yep. Supposedly.
Yeah. So let's see, when was it? Last December, I started learning to use Logic Pro X, which is a music software for anyone who doesn't know. It's a music making software. And just kind of playing around with the instruments on there and the songwriting, and then also brainstorming the visual aspect of it. It just all kind of came together. It's weird. Like before, I didn't really know what genre I wanted to be, but since I've been focusing on production more the past 6 months, I finally decided.
So what kind of music resonates with you?
I'm going to sound like a total fangirl because I am. Grimes. Like she's probably my number one influence. I just like how she has this boundless creativity in her music and also in her visual aspect. So that influenced me a lot. And I guess she's kind of like genre bending, but she calls it ethereal pop. So I guess that's what I'm going to try to make.
It's like ethereal pop. Is it kind of like spacey pop, like
yes, and very
atmospheric and
synthy, electronic instrument based.
Synths are badass,
right?
Especially in the mid 2000s. I feel like maybe early 2000s or not 2000s, 2010s. That last decade before everything went crazy.
That's weird to even say it was a decade ago.
It is, right? Like I had the realization that somebody at my work was born in 2004 and I made a dodgeball reference, which is the same year that came out, and they've never, like it's just, yeah, I had to let that sink in. Yeah, I was like, okay.
No, seriously, anytime anyone's date of birth is with the year starting with 2000, I'm like,
you opt out.
Funny now.
Anyway. Yeah, but like a lot of film scores and like a lot of indie film scores would use like some synth, especially if it was like kind of dark movies. It'd be like some cool, like intense John Carpenter-esque scores, and the synths are badass. And so when music starts, or when I listen to music and they have like really cool synth, chords or whatever, it's just like, hell yeah, I could vibe with this.
Oh my gosh. It's so true. And I remember seeing a post by you where you talked about how you like movies with like the gel lighting or like neon lighting, colored lighting.
Yeah.
You made a post about that. And usually those go with like synths.
Yep.
Make sense together.
Yeah. I think I know what post you're talking about. That was a long time ago too.
Yes, you posted some memorable things, I think.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't. I think synths are cool. So I'm excited to see what music you decide to drop and all this stuff. See the new Cindy.
Yes.
Are you
Thank
nervous
you.
about it?
Yeah, I am. So like I said, I was focusing really hardcore on like learning music production these first 6 months. And then I kind of got off track making these covers, which is still fun, but I need to get back to
Right.
doing original stuff. And I don't want to, put the horse before the cart too much. They always say, don't talk about your plans, just let the work speak for itself. But I'm hoping, late this year, early next year, I'll start releasing my original stuff.
That's exciting. I'm excited to listen to it. So let's go to your early years, your early years growing up. Were you trained in music at all?
It's kind of like the quintessential story of how your mom forces you to take piano lessons when you're in school. You hate it, you quit, you regret it later. So there was that. But I started taking voice lessons at like 14 and I've kept up with that. So
you find similarities between like piano lessons and vocal lessons? I mean, they're different instruments, right? But is there some stuff that could kind of blend over into each profession?
Maybe when it comes to like music theory, but to be honest, I don't know much music theory. I'm not even much of an instrumentalist.
I got you. Well, then the thing with Logic, I mean, you can play with stuff, learn as you go.
No, it's so true.
Like, I wonder how many DJs and just, pop artists and all this stuff are trained classically in music or have a background in music, or were they just messing around with chords on the computer and they're like, this sounds cool. And this sounds well with this other chord. I don't know what it is, but we're going to go with it.
It's so true. It almost seems like, I don't know, I don't want to discount the importance of like technical stuff. That's definitely important. But it almost seems like you got to just be like a better songwriter and like lyricist. And from there, it can come together, or even with collaborating with people who know what they're doing,
Right. So what movies did you grow up with then that kind of got you into acting?
Ooh, movies that got me into acting. I really like Natalie Portman. She's done some cool things. I like Black Swan, especially. That one's pretty sick.
So I watched that one for the first time a few months ago.
Yeah?
For the first time. Yeah. I don't know why, because I like Aronofsky, however you say his name. I think he's a cool director, but that was a trip.
Yeah. Also because, I was a ballerina in my earlier days. So that was cool. So maybe that got me into it, but yeah.
Did you always know that you wanted to be into music, or I don't know, because you're so jack of all trades. I mean, you've done acting, you've done singing, you've done all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Ballet, you just dropped that knowledge. Did you have a calling to that when you were younger that you just kind of wanted to pursue, or when did you kind of realize that this is who you are and this is what you want to explore?
Yeah. So I guess, when I was a ballerina, when I was younger, I first experienced those like highs that come from being on stage and performing in front of an audience. Right. And it's just kind of kept up since, like with the musical theater I did in high school. And then I just joined a cover band with my brother. He's also a musician. He's a guitarist. And oh my goodness, we had our first show like maybe 2 weekends ago, and I hadn't performed in front of a live crowd for forever. And it just reignited this like feeling that I missed so much. So I guess, have I felt a calling? I would describe that it kind of just feels like an itch that no matter how much, I can't scratch it. And so I just have to do it.
I like that. So do you not get stage fright then often?
Oh, I kind of do. And I was feeling nervous like before the last performance that I just told you about, especially because that was my first time like front manning or like front womaning a band. Yeah. I was so scared. I was like, what am I supposed to say to the audience between songs? Like, anyway. But I was a little scared, but once I got up there, it just kind of happened.
Were they pretty receptive to you guys?
Yeah, I think so.
That's good. To kind of ease your nerves as you went on.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I have huge stage fright.
Yeah.
I don't do with public speaking. In fact, I was thinking about this last night because one of my best friends are getting married in the next couple of months.
Ooh.
And I'm the best man.
Ooh.
And so I was like, do you want me to do a speech? And he's like, wait, do you want to do a speech? I was like, I don't know. Like, I thought that's how it worked. I don't know, He's like, well, so I'm kind of stuck doing the speech, but I was thinking like just the thought of like getting up and seeing all these people watching them, like, I'm like, fuck.
So it scares you, the thought of like talking in front of people live, but you don't mind doing these podcasts where people are watching it in post.
No, because it's already like by the time they see it, it's already happened, like they can judge later on and talking like one person or two people or whatever. I mean, it's not like super nerve wracking, but getting up in the moment, and screwing up, like I can easily edit this if I screw up. I can't edit a speech like I can beforehand, but it's always the performance of in that moment.
Very, very true.
Yeah. And I remember too, like the film awards a couple years ago, I went up for our thing and I winged it. I shouldn't have winged it, but I winged it. And it kind of backfired, but I think it backfired. A lot of people said it didn't backfire, but
Really? You didn't prepare any talking points beforehand? I feel like I have to do that.
Well, I kind of like I knew I wanted to talk about passion, but the way it came across, I'm like, guys, how many times could I say passion in like the span of 2 minutes?
That's the worst.
It was a lot, but
you like replay afterwards over and over in your head what you should have said.
Yeah. What was your first performance ever like then? Like performing in front of like a live audience? And it could be, theater or ballet or singing like you do now. Just overall.
Yeah, so many different mediums that I've done.
Yeah, jack of all trades.
I would say one that really stood out, I guess, like my favorite musical in high school, it was called Aida. Have you heard of that musical? It's got music by like Elton John.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't know what the story is. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it because I was on, what do you call it? Stage crew back in high school. So,
oh, you were?
Yeah. So I know of plays. I just have never really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For
Aida.
Sure.
Is there a lion in that?
Is there a line?
A lion.
Oh, a lion.
Yeah, a lion.
I'm like, there's many lions.
Probably one too many.
There are no lions, but I can maybe see where you got that idea. I mean, it takes place in Egypt, so it's foreign. It's like exotic. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up the poster real quick. What made that memorable to you?
Oh my gosh, that one just really stands out. It's like one of those things where you will just constantly have dreams of it afterwards. You know what I mean? Don't you ever have like recurring dreams about some things? It's just so in your brain. But
I'm trying to think of the last one. Continue.
Okay. Well, that one was super cool because at the very beginning of the musical, I was just waiting behind the curtain, waiting for it to begin because the curtains opened with me singing the opening song. It was really cool. And just hearing that like buzz of the audience out there and just the anticipation while the curtains are closed, that was super, super memorable. And just my high school went all out with the arts and the theater, and we had like our band and orchestra kids like playing the music live. So that was really neat too, like hearing them right? Hearing them rehearse and knowing that I was going to lead that number. Like it was a lot of pressure, but it was really cool.
So were you the lead in the whole play then, or were you a supporting character?
I was one of the 3 leads in that show.
Damn, Cindy. What high school did you go to? Out of curiosity. Which one?
Hillcrest.
I've never been there. I went to Woods Cross.
Okay.
I've
heard of that.
Yeah, it was okay. Like there's some reports recently that came out where they're like, oh, there's some racist stuff in Woods Cross. And I'm like, I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because I know when I was on stage crew, we did Grease and which other one did we do? Little Mermaid,
Mhm.
which is fun. But I was like a stage manager, so it was like really fun. But
Yeah, you were stage crew.
yeah, well, you're talking about like the curtain closing and all that, and then just hearing like everybody quiet and shifting their seats. It's just like a huge atmospheric thing I can relate to that part. And then, but the second that the curtains open up and there you are performing just right off the back, you're the one setting the tone right off the back. Holy shit. Like how do you handle that? Like that's exciting, thrilling, everything.
Yeah, it was exciting. I remember having this irrational fear that I was going to get hiccups and that I would start out the show hiccuping in the song. It never happened, but that was like the fear I had.
That's a valid fear.
Right?
How would you go about it? Just continue singing while hiccuping?
How would you? Really, there's no like recovering from that.
Or like, like what if it was like an accidental burp, like let's say you ate some Mexican food and you had like just like a little gas build up.
Oh my gosh, if you're eating Mexican food before any type of performance, I mean, you're asking for it.
You're
just
that's
setting yourself up for failure there.
Yeah, I've never done that, but I can totally see that happening.
Right.
What other plays have you done then that were kind of memorable?
We did one called Damn Yankees. That one was also really fun. Do you know about that one?
I do not know that one. I've actually never heard that one.
Yeah. So let's see. That one had like more old school music, like 50s, like sound. Yeah. So like the classical musical sound. That one was really fun. I played this like seductress character named Lola. And she sings that song, like everyone knows it. It's like, whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. Anyway, that was like the big song. And that was fun.
I've heard that song. I've heard that song.
Okay, there you go. You know that song.
I know that song. I did not know what that was from.
Yes. That was my typecast, honestly. I always got roles like that.
Okay, so what's your dream role then? I mean, I don't know if you're gonna continue acting or not, but like what was a dream role that you always wanted but never got?
Man, I'd totally be down to act again if I was like invited on a project. I haven't submitted like any self-tapes or auditions for a while. But anyway, dream role. Whew. If we're talking musicals, I'm in the musical mode. I would love to be like Eponine from Les Mis, the On My Own song. Ugh.
Yeah.
Or what's her name? I think it's Vanessa from In the Heights.
I watched that one.
Oh, like the movie adaptation?
Yeah, I haven't seen I didn't know it was a Broadway until after the movie. I'm like, oh, I didn't know this was based off of Broadway.
Yeah, for real. I actually have not seen the movie, but I've seen it performed live.
The movie's pretty good, I think.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
There's some catchy songs in there that still kind of like get stuck in your head, Like, when you wake up in the morning and like for whatever reason, some random song will just get stuck in your head to start the day.
Oh, yes. And then it's in there relentlessly.
Yeah. Yeah. They've had a couple songs do that to me where I'm just like, why is this even a thing right now?
Okay, but do you honestly like musicals or do you tolerate it?
I like them, actually. I don't seek for them, but if they're playing, I'll watch them. A lot of old movies, like in the 50s, like you said, in the 60s, there's a lot of musicals that have been adapted into Broadway, which is really cool too. And there's so many similarities with the theatrical background, like, in theater and performing live compared to, performing live on a set. I mean, I know Les Mis, the newest version, at least, they all sang live on set, which I don't know why they did, but it was a huge thing, like it's just really fascinating to compare the two. And with play,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say with Broadway and plays and all that, they're so limited. This is my criticism of the Les Mis movie, but you're so limited to a selection of what you can see with the scene and everything, because your stage is only so big and you have to use your imagination to some extent, whereas for the movie, they could have done so much with like the whole scene, like the whole atmosphere and everything with the city, and they chose to stay close-ups on people, which
that's True.
Yeah, which it still boggles my mind why. Uh, but it turned out pretty okay, I guess, overall. I don't. That's my only valid
Yeah.
criticism is the lack of not bringing the imagination to life on the screen. Because I feel like with movies, you're supposed to be visually captivating, right? Like boom. So in the Heights, I don't know if I could compare it in the Heights because I haven't seen it, but I'd imagine that's pretty much like West Side Story, which I have seen, right? Both the movies and the Broadway, but it's very limited with like apartments and what do you call those ladders to go to windows? I don't know what you call them. Yeah. But in the Heights, I mean, they had a lot of fun with it, like a lot of camera movement, so I think they did pretty good.
I wonder if there was if they made that a conscious choice for Les Mis for whatever reason. Because the whole fact that they sang it live and didn't do much like vocal editing, like you can hear the imperfections and stuff. I wonder if they're trying to keep it maybe kind of true to a musical theater aspect or what.
It could have been, which is, I mean, if that's a creative approach they wanted, I mean, mad respect for that.
Yeah. But you would have done more with the sets and whatnot.
I would. Meeting will end in 10 minutes.
Oh my goodness, already.
Okay, so at 6:07, we're gonna try our thing we talked about.
Okay, yeah.
Fucking Zoom. Oh, they have a time remaining thing. Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep an eye on that. Well, yeah, Broadways and stuff. Well, that's cool. So that's musicals. Let's talk like action or drama or thrillers. Horror movies. Like, what's because you were in was it Devon's Project?
Yes.
Yeah. You were in that for a horror film, like a thriller horror. Did you have fun doing that? Like, would you have fun playing the lead girl, like acting like that? Or I don't know.
So that was actually like, so that's what actually like got me into film acting, because Devon and I were friends and he asked me to be a part of it. And yeah, that's kind of what got me like acting in front of the camera. And to be honest with you, I was just like goofing off in the beginning, to be honest. Like, we were just having a good time. I wasn't taking it like too seriously. I was just having fun. That's what I liked about it, though. I liked definitely the crew. Maybe that's what everyone comes out of movies saying, is they just loved hanging out, having an excuse to hang out with these people. Like every week, we filmed weekly. Yeah, and then like halfway through, I saw my castmate Yvonne Bennett like really bringing her A game, and I was like, oh, maybe I should. And so when people watch that, I hope they don't judge my acting too hard in the first few scenes, because yeah, I was messing around.
Well, I mean, I love filming for that. It's an experience for everybody involved.
Yeah.
And all the late nights and all the early mornings, and there's some crankiness sometimes, but like overall, like everybody's just working toward the same goal and just vibing,
Yes, I do love that sense of community and like in creative endeavors, how everyone's working towards the same goal. Like whether that was in that film or in theater, it had that same feeling about it.
Is there the same feeling in music? Like, do you find some similarities working on music compared to like your other endeavors?
See, that's what I kind of miss, is that I feel like these songs that I've been writing and learning to produce, it's been very like on my own and a very individual effort. I could put myself out there and collaborate more, and I do want to, and I want to find mentors to help me like improve, and I've done that a little bit, but no, it's largely just me working on it solo, and the content I've been making has been solo as well, so I miss that, the community aspect.
Yeah, I don't know, I feel like, because I haven't been on a film set since 2020, which makes me really sad and depressed.
Yeah.
And it sucked. But then I seen all these people, just doing their thing, which I think is cool. And then my fear right now is just like, what if I waited too long to get back into it? Like, shit.
What do you mean? Like, it'll just be hard to get momentum going again, or?
Yeah, getting momentum and just having people, help out and being like, surprise, I like to think of it like Dexter, where the officer's like, surprise, motherfucker, like That's how I want to be like walking on set, like I haven't seen me in 2 years, but here I am. Surprise.
Really?
That'd be fun.
I don't know. I think that you could get back into it just from the time I had in the film industry here in Utah. It feels to me like I know you put out a couple projects. I remember Night of Adventure, and I've talked with a couple actors who are like really fans of your writing. So it seems like the people around here trust what you do. So I think if you wanted to get back into it, it wouldn't be that hard.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, there's stuff. Been a lot. It's been a lot busy past 2 years, but I mean, because similar to you, like, you're rebranding or whatever, like 3 years ago, like I was really into like horror projects, like working on all these horror films and, trying to get those brought those to life. But these 2 years have given me as a writer is to kind of dive in personally, like, like look within and realize that it's not the horror projects that are my passion. It's more comedy and drama of all things.
No way.
But those two, but comedy and horror share a lot of similarities, like they're very subjective. They're both very hard to do well. And both explore themes of trauma, of politics, there's so many similarities that you could draw from both genres. But
that's so interesting because it feels like they're on opposite ends of the emotional spectrum, like being afraid versus being scared, but they consist of a lot of the same things.
They do. Oh. And so when there's like a comedic horror film, like the one that comes to mind for me is Cabin in the Woods, trying to think of that. It's a pretty solid film, but like when it's done well, it just feels like it's a puzzle piece. It just fits, like these two genres work well if you can do it correctly, which is the trick for everything.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my best friends are huge like scary movie buffs, and they kind of drag me into it. But I do like the A24 movies. Those are fun because you never really know like what to expect.
Yeah, I watched one recently with my parents and my grandma.
Oh, really?
Because she wanted to watch it.
That's badass.
It's badass. My
grandma's would.
Yeah, no, my nana's badass, but she because I've seen the movie before with a group of friends in the theater, and I'm like, so she told me she wants to watch it. It was like a movie night out, like in the backyard.
Which one was it?
It was Men.
Oh my gosh, that was so weird.
so I looked at her. I'm like, are you sure you want to watch it? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, just so you know, though, like the third act gets really fucking weird and very, Alex Garland, because that's how he does stuff.
Eternal birthing.
Yeah. And she's like, what happens? I'm like, I can't describe it. No matter how I describe it, it's not going to do the scene justice, because I think the scene serves its purpose. That whole sequence does, it says whatever it wants to say about the thing, but like no amount of words I say can ever justify that. Like, so anyways, yeah, we ended up watching it and she really liked it. So
you liked it. Wow.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah, A24 films were fun. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna talk about the ones that I liked. Like I liked Hereditary. It's probably the scariest movie I've ever seen.
Fucking love that movie.
Right? Or Midsummer. Do you like Midsummer?
I love Ari Aster. I watched the short films too, and like people are like Hereditary and Midsummer are messed up. I'm like, dude, watch the short films and you're gonna be like, I understand why they gave him the money to do those projects.
Oh, I haven't seen Ari Aster's short films.
Yeah, there's we'll talk about it off camera. It's wild. Do you ever feel like if you talk shit on a computer or like an electronic, like it's gonna be anti you for like the rest of time?
Dude, that's what I've heard. I've heard that you need to be nice to AI because when the time comes that they take over, they're gonna remember how you treated them in the beginning. So I've got my like Google Assistant, and I never talk rude to it.
So you're never like, shut up.
No.
Do you think it? Or you're like, thank you?
Oh my goodness, yes, I get annoyed at it all the time. It always plays the wrong song. Yeah. My friend though, he got really mad at his Google Assistant one time, and I'm gonna say under my breath because I don't want it to start listening to me.
You don't the Hey Google?
Yeah, don't say that. Anyway, he was like, "Hey Google, what the fuck?" And it like chastised him. It was like, I may be a virtual assistant, but your words are very real.
Oh,
anyway,
it
so AI
bids.
will remember. Exactly. So be kind.
Dude, AI is scary.
Right?
Like first I was like all for it, I'm like, oh, cool technology. But then you realize like what Facebook and Twitter is all doing and like how the algorithm knows you more than you know yourself. And I don't like that. That's like a no. And then if it was smart, it would just eradicate humanity because we suck,
Because it could be smarter than any of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if you're nice to it, like what if it's like you've been nice, but you still don't serve a good purpose? Off. So it's like you're being nice to AI for nothing.
Maybe that's true. Shoot, we'll see in the coming decades how that pans out.
Yeah, that got dark. But with technology, I mean, at least we're able to see space, with those new space images and all that.
Very true. It's so interesting how it's just a snowball rolling downhill. Like, I don't think there's any stopping it.
Yeah. I don't know, is that a blessing or a curse,
Both, right? It's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on technology and AI? I've asked this before in other episodes. I'm just curious about yours.
Yeah. I think it's the big thing that everyone's waiting to see where it goes. I have a 4-month-old niece who's super adorable, and I just can't help but think, like, what is the world going to be like when you're my age? Because we lived in this interesting time period where we kind of saw, the transition a little bit. Like, we remember childhood without internet a little bit. But yeah, technology, we'll see how it goes. Like the metaverse, what do you think about that?
I'm not for it.
You're not?
Zuckerberg freaks me out. Like, what's up with him and Elon Musk just both looking like fucking androids when they go on vacation, they go swimming or whatever? Have you seen the recent photo of Elon Musk? Like,
quite
like
pasty.
Yeah, pasty, just like a weird tank bod, like, and then if you look at Mark Zuckerberg, he has like sunscreen over his face while he's like water skiing. And it's just like, why can you guys not be normal for like...
No, seriously, between the two of them and like Jeff Bezos, they're like in a competition to be the most eccentric. Yeah, Elon Musk wins.
Oh yeah. So maybe money doesn't, win all.
Yeah, I don't know.
Perhaps. Hey, if we're gonna go dystopian though, do you think the economy is gonna crash?
The what?
The economy? Do you think it's gonna crash?
Ooh.
Do you think we're just gonna see like buildings go on fire and just like everything just free for all?
I don't know. That's a scary topic.
It is. We won't go there. Okay, let's go back into your.
I'm not much of an economist.
I'm not either. I'm a, what do you want to call it? Speculative film major who just likes to see the extreme just for drama. But so what are some fun facts about your pursuits?
Fun facts about my pursuits. Well, one thing I guess that I would advocate for is, I think as artists, we get caught up in perfectionism a lot, and that holds us back from doing a lot of things, whether it's releasing things or maybe collaborating. I don't know. It's a huge hang up. One thing I've been trying to implement as I've been learning music production is just sharing while I'm still a work in progress. And just kind of fighting against that perfectionist mode. And I think it's been turning out. I've been getting responses from people since I've done this rebrand. And I'm like, sweet. Like, I don't even have to wait until I have these fully polished songs that are on Spotify. You know what I mean? Like, start now.
Yeah, I even noticed you like rebranded your Spotify because you sent me the links. I'm like, I wonder if, because I recall you had quite a few covers on there, right?
I have one cover on Spotify and then a bunch that I've just put like on Instagram. Well, that I previously had.
Yeah, because I noticed that it's just like rebranded too. Oh my God, you're doing TikTok, you're doing Instagram, you're doing Spotify, you're doing it all.
Trying, yes. I'm still in the early stages, but
Why not
yeah.
Twitter?
Oh my word. Are you on Twitter?
I use Twitter more than I use Facebook, honestly.
Really?
I do. It's because I feel like Facebook has a lot of, work stuff and work friends and all this. And I'm like, nobody follows me on Twitter anyway. So I'm like, I can just get away with saying like the most BS stuff ever.
Maybe I should. It's just so weird. You think of all these platforms and then you think of how you have to adapt your content to work on all these platforms. And I just haven't even brainstormed what I would post on Twitter.
You just tweet.
Yeah, just like share my innermost thoughts or thought I had while passing in the day.
Yeah. Like for example, a couple days ago, I posted about, I was doing promotion about this episode, right? I'm like, cool, I got a new guest lined up. It was on the podcast. I have like 2 pages, the podcast page and my personal page. Mm-hmm. So I shared it on my personal page. I'm like, oh yeah, I fucking need to go to bed. It was like 11 o'clock at night and like my brain's going like a billion miles per hour, right? So I joked about it being like, I feel like my brain's going a billion miles per hour. And I had this thought, I'm like, well, is that the speed of light? Like, what's the speed of light? So I had to like Google the speed of light and it's not that. It's like 646 million, something. And I'm like, oh, I overshot it then. But I posted what the exact speed of light was. I'm like, the more you know for whoever reads this.
There you go.
That's just how you tweet,
learning new things.
You could tweet hot movie takes. So if you're going to tweet a hot movie take, make sure it's an actual hot take and not like a shit take, because a lot of people misconstrue the two, but they're like, oh, I have a shitty take. That's a hot take. I'm like, no, hot take is something that's thought provoking that actually has, some punch behind it.
So it doesn't necessarily mean controversial. Cause yeah, it does seem like when people say hot take. Yeah. They think that's what it means.
Yeah. So Twitter's fun for movie stuff and other stuff, I guess. I don't use Instagram much, like I told you. TikTok, I just watch funny videos on there, and edit videos. And you might find this too, like when you're doing your songs on there, but like try to match TikTok's platform and dimensions. Like a lot of shit that goes into it. Like
I know it's like all vertical.
It is. And I recently re-edited, right? But it's just taken the final copy of the Nav Adventure, but it was just a scene from that where I made it TikTok's dimensions.
Yeah.
And I had to create 4 different cameras essentially in Premiere. So I could cut between all the different, it was just to represent different angles. So I could cut them as it's playing out and then adjust as I go. So it's not like, it's just an editing thing, but
so that it doesn't cut out like key parts of it, you mean? Because it's like originally like widescreen, but you had to
so it's widescreen, and so the timeline is whatever TikTok's dimensions are, and because of that, it's like you have your video just like full on like it's like uploaded, and so you have to like scroll over and all this stuff. But the more cuts you have, though, you have to keep adjusting. So you have to, each adjustment you make, you have to make a cut.
Wow.
To scroll over a bit or whatever. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into TikTok. So when I see like podcasters like post all their stuff and it's like really nicely cut and it's for TikTok and Instagram's platform, and then you watch the full thing on YouTube, I'm like, a lot of freaking work.
Oh my goodness. I had not thought about that. That is crazy. Sounds kind of tedious.
Yeah. to say the least, but I don't know. Hey, what are your opinions on music videos?
Music videos.
Like, because I know you had a couple with some of the songs you released, which one was it? Was it Paranoid or recent? Paranoid.
Yeah.
You were
the Post Malone cover. Yeah.
Yeah. You had a music video for that, like, right?
Did you? Yes. Yep. And I also had one for my original song, Untangle.
Yep. I remember that one. Yep.
That I released back in 2018 already.
Feel old.
I know. Music videos.
Like, do you have an idea? Like, when you come up with a song, do you have like videos that come to mind, like ideas where you're just like, oh, this would be good for the video if I do a video for it?
Yes. Yeah, or even if it's not my songs, like I hear a certain song and then I'll come up with like a storyline or some kind of concept in my head.
Yeah.
And Yeah, when I listen to music, I guess that's kind of what happens is I start to try to see something visually. So that is fun brainstorming it. And then, of course, shooting, what it's like being on sets and the fun of making something come to life that was once just an idea in your head.
It's fun. So we shot and we attempted to shoot a music video for a song that we used in my short. And then I don't think we got enough footage, and I still have the footage, but yeah, it's different kind of shooting, and I don't know if music videos are my thing.
Really?
It's a whole different mindset, but we did play with cool techniques. Like we played with the lens whacking, where you take off the lens and let like this light sleep in, and hit the sensor. So it gives it like an old vintage flair to it.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So we did play with that, and then you can like transitionally edit that. So like it kind of blends into another, I guess like another shot. But
yeah,
so there's takeaways from that. But directing music videos is a different ball game. So I admire people who do that exclusively because it's a whole different thing. And I feel like you have to have the advertising background, or not background, just like the advertising mindset. Like, how will this sell to people? How will this look to a mass audience, essentially, right? Yeah. Whereas for me, right now, just like for films or whatever, it's more about what I want. So it's never, about how we're going to sell this. It's always just about how can we tell the story. It's always about the story first.
True. Because do you direct as well? I know you write.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So when you're the director, that's like your baby. Like you get to call all the shots.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm pretty laid back about it. Like I'm not.
That's funny.
But, and I think too, and maybe the same could be said for music, but if you collaborate with a lot of people, like would say you have a cool idea for a song or you have a cool idea for a video, whatever, and you put all this work into it, but then you don't release it because there's holdups or something like that. It kind of tears people down that we're all involved, like where's the work at? And so that's why the attempted music video, I still have the footage and maybe one day I'll get to it for sure. But like nobody was like, it was like it was more of an experiment anyway. Like we all said it was going to be an experimental thing.
Yeah.
And the way we shot it, and like we even used like a live recording of her playing the song, like, and try to cut around that. It was cool. It was a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is cool how some people, that's their main thing, is doing music videos. Yeah. There's a lot of cool artsy things you can do with that, like cinematography wise.
Cinematog.
Oh man. I was going to say, I feel like you reminded me of something. Oh yeah. Just like being on sets where the project was never released. It's like, where's the movie? I worked hard on that.
Yeah. And things go into development hell, but I mean, even if it's shitty, at least you did it,
yes.
Because it's a miracle. My friend Deuce always says it's a miracle that things even get made in the first place.
Aw, I love that attitude. See,
which is true. I mean, it's like, it's a miracle. And like even the crappiest films, I'm like, well, at least they went out there and made it and released it. Because there's some people who will make stuff and not release it,
It's so true. Like, my mind blanked. But no, it's so true. Like even like you said, the crappiest things, like there's still a pretty huge collaborative effort and they still take a ton of effort. So it is amazing that when anyone makes anything at all. And I like that you have that attitude, because I don't like how, sometimes with artists, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people get pretentious. And I like, don't you think? I don't know. It's like, you don't gotta be an art snob. Whatever someone feels like they need to put out into the world, they felt that for a reason. Don't shit on it.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think, and there's a difference too of criticizing something and being an asshole about it.
Yeah.
Is if you can constructively criticize and say, I see, like I see the intent or whatever. And that's what I look for in film criticism. Like when I read, film critics, because there's a lot that will just shit on a film without any explanation of why they didn't like it, why they didn't vibe with it, whatever.
Yeah.
But there are others who understand the process, number one, but also understand that there's so much at play that is out of control of everybody involved. especially the more money that's involved, the directors and producers don't have that much control over the project. It's the studio, Like, I don't know. Just wild. You have to have that understanding, but you also have to, just be constructive about it. If you're not constructive and if you're not trying to build people up, even though if it doesn't work for you, then like, what's the point of giving your opinion that's
totally
not adding any discussion to it?
Yeah, like constructive feedback can be very useful and very helpful and is very necessary. But ragging on something just because it's not your thing is kind of lame.
Yeah, like I'm not a fan of Post Malone, but I like your cover. And when I hear his music, I'm like, people like this. Good for them.
Yeah.
Because
I like it.
On the flip side, because I listen to music that I know nobody will like, really. That night where I was on Twitter until God knows when, I was so sidetracked listening to a death metal band and watching this opera singer analyze their vocal techniques.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I don't know. Just if you're not gonna like something, that's fine. Like nobody's gonna like everything, right? But like at least be constructive about it, or don't say anything at all.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun how like niche stuff like that exists. So there's probably an audience for everything out there.
It's true.
Just gotta find it.
When was a time that you received some criticism where it kind of deflated your ego?
So in the last year, 2021, I was pretty close with someone. We were like best friends. Okay, we kind of dated. Yeah, I'll just say that. And we don't talk anymore, but this person had a huge influence on my life. And he was probably one of the most unapologetically himself people that I ever met. And it's kind of polar opposite of me because I can be very filtered and like very careful in what I say. And that's also a reason why this rebrand just feels so refreshing to me, because I feel like I'm finally going to express myself. But yeah, so this friend of mine, one time we were talking about, because he's also an artist. He does photography and wants to be a screenwriter. So we were talking about art, even though we do different mediums. And how did we even get into this conversation? He was just kind of brutally honest with me and like telling me how I need to have more drive. And I totally do, because I'm by nature a pretty passive person, and gave me some critiques as well about how not that he was telling me what I should do, but giving me some ideas of how I could like brand or present myself. And that conversation, even though I hated it in the moment, I was like, dude, you're such a jerk. But it like stuck in my head after. And I tried to pull like the constructive parts out of that. And honestly, it's a huge influence on me today and how and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So sometimes those like moments that sting kind of like shape you the most, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Because I've learned, like recently, for example, that even if an actor asks for footage from your project or whatever for the reel, that it's not always going to end up in the reel. And it's hard. At first I took that kind of personal, but now I'm like, maybe it didn't represent them in the way they wanted to be represented, which is fine. But in college, I took a screenwriting class where we would just bring in scripts, read them as a table, and then get feedback. And this is where I learned the difference between constructive feedback and just shitty feedback. Because a lot of people have opinions, but if they can't back up their opinions with something constructive about it.
Yeah, like something substantial. Yeah.
And it could be like, this didn't work for me, but here's why. And this is what I think you can do to express it. And as a screenwriter, you're supposed to realize it's just one person, but there's probably other people who feel the same. How can I kind of broaden it, like just slowly broaden whatever's bugging them, So there's a huge difference in all that. But when I first started the class, it was definitely hard to listen to some of the feedback and criticism. Mm-hmm. But now I don't care, honestly. Like, if somebody doesn't like something, But
Ooh, that's gross.
well, it kind of goes into this whole, like, because like the thing I want to make now, it's long. It's like, over 120 pages, but most of it's dialogue. So it's not that long in the long end, like in the end of stuff, like, once you shoot and edit, because dialogue goes by quick. Some people have criticized it for being too long for dialogue. I'm like, that's fine. But you also they don't know how it's going to play out on screen. That's when it goes into the actor's hands, right?
Yeah.
And to me, that's exciting. And so that's why even though their criticisms might be valid, and I might, learn that the hard way down the line, if this ever gets, put in motion, at least I tried it. And at least I know for future reference to even listen to that criticism down the road. You know what I mean?
Wow. So you're like committed to your vision right now, and you're going to keep the dialogue driven.
Yep.
Screenwriting.
Yeah. Well, and plus, I think it saves money on budget. Consider, I don't know. That whole budget thing is the most deflating thing about film. You don't have a budget. You just feel kind of worthless. And I don't know. Does it cost money to produce music?
Yes. And that's why I decided to learn myself, because I was like, and I still want to like hire mentors, but hiring producers, that was easily the most expensive part. So plus I love learning myself, because then I have more creative control over it.
Right.
But
have you been resorting to YouTube, or how have you?
I got really excited that you asked that, because that's actually one of the things that I wanted to talk about, is just how like available information is. You can like literally almost teach yourself to do anything.
You can.
Right?
What's the thing that you've learned then from that? Like, what's the biggest mind fuck moment where you watched it and it clicked?
From like learning things online?
Yeah, things online, or just, whatever. But like, yeah, things online. And like when you put it into practice, and when you finally saw like the end result, like what was like the biggest moment?
Oh man, I just love YouTube. I call it YouTube University. You know what I mean? Because you can look up and learn anything. Learning to produce music, that's where I learned the bulk of music production, is just people explaining step by step what they're doing on there. And the wow moment, I guess, to answer your question, was just applying it yourself, and then being, I don't know, like you start out with just a few instruments or maybe a loop, and then you follow these things that you're learning. And then suddenly it's like, oh, whoa, like this actually sounds like a song. Like, like I'm not where I want to be yet. I'm not a pro, but it's like, it's a song. So
it's the fundamentals of it, the foundation of it all.
Yeah. And it's just that same good feeling that I imagine you get from bringing your screenwriting to life, when you have a song that's written lyrically and the melody, and then suddenly the instruments are there, and it's like, it's just getting life breathed into it. Really cool.
It is cool. I for example, for the short, at the end, there's like music that's playing that my dad came up with. But whatever it is, I don't know. Like maybe it's violins. I don't know what it is.
Your dad came up with it. Your dad's a musician.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
When I was writing the script, I heard that same exact sound, like envisioning it, and I didn't even talk to him about it at all. Like I just let him,
Oh. So while you were writing, you heard like a sonic element in your head.
Yeah. And then sick. Watching the film, like what with his, the first track or whatever that he did, I was like, I've heard that before. Like it was like, wow. It was really cool. It was like,
is this something you've released yet, or something you were working on? This short that you're talking about?
Oh, this was the Night of Adventure one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's just like one toward the end. But yeah, I think it's a really cool moment to like see it all connect without even communicating about it, And that just to me was validation that like, oh, this was somehow conveyed in a way that I wasn't even prepping for it to be conveyed, but here it is. You know what I mean? Like,
that's actually really cool. It's almost like it was a telepathic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so lyrically, like, what do you look for when you're writing lyrics? Like, because each writer in music, has a different approach to writing lyrics, right? And it depends on what kind of music you're making, all this stuff. I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it, but what do you look for when you start writing a song, like the lyrics to it?
Yeah, everybody's like got their own processes. Sometimes I'll be thinking about something, whatever topic it is, that makes me feel deeply. And like I said, I'm not much when it comes to music theory or like technicality and instruments. But one thing I will say that I've got going for me is sometimes I have thoughts that come to me pretty poetically. And so when that happens, I'll pull out my notes app on my phone. I kid you not, Chaz, I'm at 4,000 notes on my phone. Yeah. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
I won't say it's good. I mean, how do you go through it?
I don't know. I don't sometimes, but sometimes I'll be scrolling through and then I'll find something that I forgot that I wrote. And it's kind of cool. It's like a journal. But anyway, so when that happens, when I get a poetic thought, I guess I'll call it, I jot it down in my notes app. And then when I sit down to write, I'll refer to these notes and I kind of start off with that, I guess, like just a good thought that's worded well. And then from there, you can kind of get your hook, which is like, what glues the whole song together. So I either do that. I start with a lyric that just came to my head, or I use loops a lot, like in music production. So I'll hear a loop and I'll kind of top line it, like come up with a melody and lyrics over it. So those are my two approaches that I usually go to.
You ever get like shower lyrics?
Shower lyrics, like shower thoughts.
Yeah. Like some of my best ideas, I feel like they're my best ideas. They're probably shit ideas, but like, you're like, oh, whoa. It's always in the shower, but they always hit like an epiphany where I'm like, I could do that in that script or whatever,
That's
and then
cool.
If I don't act on it, then I forget about it. But
I don't think the shower has been a place of revelation for me. Now I'm trying to think if there's like a specific place where it comes to me. No, just randomly, I guess. Maybe just whenever I have a second to think.
I get that.
Wherever that may be.
So when you're writing your lyrics, then do you try to like rhyme them? Do you care about rhyme? Do you care about, I don't know, because poems have beats and rhythm, right? Like on their own. Especially if you like study poems, and there's different terms for it, whatever. Do you try to apply that to the music as well? Or do you kind of try to write the lyrics based off the beats you've already come up with in the music?
Ooh,
does that make sense?
I think so. I think it's always sonically pleasing when something rhymes. You know what I mean? Like, and it just sticks in your head. So yeah, I do find myself, I guess, trying to rhyme things. Like I'll Google things that rhyme with or synonyms for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To help generate some words. But I don't want to feel held back by that. Like there are some songs I think where maybe there aren't some rhymes, but it still works somehow.
Yeah. What's a favorite line that you've written?
Oh my goodness.
And it doesn't have to be produced yet. It doesn't have to be produced yet or whatever. And it could just be one line.
Okay, let's see. I'll maybe let me find the lyrics to this song that I want to share the demo of it here. Okay, well this isn't actually a lyric from the song, but I pulled up my notes app and I found one of my poetic thoughts. It says, oxytocin is one hell of a drug. So apparently I liked that.
Did you ever see that Seinfeld episode where he gets the joke in the middle of the night and writes it down? And he doesn't remember what it was for the rest of the episode until like the end. And then he's like, that's not that funny.
Hey, is this your way of telling me you don't like my poetic thought?
No. I'm just saying like the writing process. I like your poetic thought.
Thank you. No, but that's totally true. Sometimes you think things are really cool in your dream, and then you remember it and you're like, why did that seem so much more epic in my dream?
So with your poem writing, your lyric writing and stuff, that has inspired you to write stuff that's not musically related. Like, do you write poems on the side and stuff?
Oh my gosh, yes. There's just not enough time in the day to like make everything you want to make and be a functioning human being. Don't you agree?
Yeah, actually.
Especially
if you have like a full-time job, it just sucks the life out of you.
Yes. Yeah. So like originally I was writing these songs, writing lyrics, but I like so I went to the Utah Arts Fest a couple weeks ago, and there were some people who were like performing poetry, and I really like that. I like how it almost is like they incorporate aspects of like acting and like giving a monologue, because you have to make it like engaging, you know what I mean? So I thought that'd be pretty sick. So I kind of thought maybe some spoken word poetry would be cool.
Spoken word's cool,
right?
I took a poetry class in college.
Oh, nice.
And we had to go to a spoken word guy doing his thing.
Oh, cool. Like you saw him performing or something?
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't really my vibe, but like it was a really cool experience. And it was at the Ken Sanders bookstore. I don't know if you've been there.
Oh, yeah. I have.
So it's like a lot of cool energy in there, you know, and like cool books.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool.
Rare
I like books.
Bookstore.
Yeah. It was a really random book. It kind of reminded me of like a Harry Potter location, just because.
Oh my gosh, it totally does.
There randomly.
That's exactly the vibe. Nice. So you were more into, did you take that class because you were more into like written poetry?
Yeah, I mean, I took it as an elective first and foremost, but I was curious about it because like I do write, or I have written poems on the side and stuff, and
nice,
all this stuff. But then I took a creative writing class that was I think it was just creative writing was what it was called, but it's interesting. It's interesting to try and write short stories and all that stuff and poems compared to like screenplays, just because it's a whole different format. Because like with screenplays, especially, you're using present tense, or you should be, or whatever, you know, like that's the rule.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you're writing prose or short stories or whatever, I mean, you can use whatever tense you want. And so if you start getting hung up on that, it makes it really confusing.
In poetry, you mean you shouldn't get hung up on something?
On tenses and stuff?
Yeah.
It really just depends. But like, for me, what's that?
Because there are like no rules in poetry, right? Like, how do you even define a poem? Like, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Like you can say one line, you can say hand sanitizer.
And that could be a poem.
That's the poem.
Yeah. Especially when you incorporate like the visual aspect. I don't know. Maybe you wrote it with hand sanitizer.
Ooh. Yeah. You know, just dip some hand sanitizer or drop some. And
yeah.
then just
like some poems have a whole visual, like, like a typography aspect to it.
That could be cool. I didn't think about that. That's cool.
It is kind of cool how, there are no rules.
There are no rules. And if, I guess there are rules, but if you know the rules are meant to be broken. And I think that could be applied to any medium of art. Is once you understand the rules and why they're there, then you could break said rules and redefine them into whatever capacity that you see fit. So
true. Like something I want to implement more. I don't know. Do you ever listen to the 1975, that band?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I really like that Maddie Healy, the lead singer and songwriter, does is that it'll be sounding like a really nice song, really sweet song, sentimental vibe. And then he just throws this like curveball of a lyric in there that's like completely unexpected, and it like throws you off, but it's the lyric you remember and it's just unexpected. That'd be fun to incorporate more.
Would you ever incorporate like screaming vocals in your stuff?
Ooh, I have thought about that. There's this one cover that I am making where I somewhat tried to do that. And it's really funny hearing myself do that because that's never been my genre ever. And so just hearing my attempt it's fun. It's funny.
That'd be, yeah. How do you even like engage those chords? Because as a singer, okay, you told me you were trained as in vocal stuff,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
How do you engage different parts of each of your chords and your diaphragm and all that?
Well, I study this method of singing called speech level singing, and
Okay.
I really like it. Basically, the whole premise of it is that you're supposed to approach singing the same way that you would speaking, because I mean they're similar things. You know what I mean? Singing is speaking, just with different pitches. So that's what I try to do, and that's what my vocal coach always tried to get me to do, and try to like blend head and chest and like lower voice and try to make it cohesive and not so much of a switch. I'm not perfect at that though. But yeah, as for like the technique for screaming, I'm not totally sure. I don't know what the proper technique is because you don't want to like fry your chords. My friend, he was like a total metalhead and he wanted to learn how to scream. And apparently he said the key is in vocal fry. So like this. And then from there, it morphs into a scream. That's what he told me.
I still don't know how to do that. Now, I mean, if you're screaming, like, do you have to know, like, could a tone deaf person be able to scream and make it sound good?
It does seem like pitch maybe is, I don't know. It seems like maybe it's a little less crucial in screaming than actual singing, right?
I mean,
Now I'm thinking about that. I don't know. Maybe you still kind of have to stick to the key of the song somehow, but.
What's your most embarrassing moment while singing?
Most embarrassing moment while singing. Gratefully the hiccup thing never happened, or that would have been it. Forgetting lyrics is always kind of embarrassing. When that happens to me, like that kind of happened in the cover band show that I did, because my brother kind of sprung it on me that I was going to be front manning the band at this show. And so I had to memorize 16 songs in like a week. It was really hard.
So how do you memorize them? Do you just like read the lyrics over and over and sing along to the song, or?
Yes. Or what else did I do? I would like look up the karaoke versions on YouTube, but not look at the screen and just hear the song without the lyrics and try to sing along with it in my head.
Because I've always wondered that, like, how do people memorize so many songs, especially when they go on tour, like playing like 20 song set lists,
Exactly.
What the fuck?
So yeah, I did kind of forget some of my lyrics at that last show, and I just try to disguise it. You just kind of have to slur lyrics together, or you make up your own.
That's fair.
That's what I've had to do.
So what's the point in while pursuing, your crafts of singing? Model? Do you model too?
Oh yeah, I forgot to say that. I have modeled and I like to style these crazy outfits as well. So those are some other creative outlets I have.
Yeah, so while pursuing your creative outlets, then what's the lowest point that you've been where you kind of questioned if this is something you wanted to keep pursuing?
Oh, that's a deep question. My lowest points, like while making the content or just art in general?
Just in general.
Yeah. I think, I guess there's a couple things. The thought of like putting yourself out there is hard and it's scary, and releasing things like out into the wild that were once safely just existing in your head and then in your heart, and people's perceptions of you based off of that's scary. And that's something that I've battled with, like leading up to the rebrand that I keep mentioning was, how is this going to be like received by people? It's very different than how I've portrayed myself before. Many people remember me in a different way. This is going to be, well, you know what I mean? Like, what are they going to think? But like I said, it's just been very freeing and refreshing, but that was definitely a hard thing to overcome. And then I guess another thing that is hard or that can make me feel in a low point, I guess, is just wondering if, I guess, just hoping that it will pay off and amount to something that you're happy with, you know what I mean? And that people will resonate with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
The worst thing is like putting something out there and I don't know. Don't you think that sometimes being an artist is like screaming into the abyss because you're not making something that people technically need? You know what I mean? Like they need to go to the doctor or they need to pay their rent. So sometimes, yeah, it just feels like you're screaming into the abyss. But when it does resonate with someone, it makes it all worth it. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Do you think the point of creating is not only like express ourselves, but also just to relate to others as a whole?
For sure. And I think that's why, you know, these artists that we love so much and come to mean so much to us, like when one of them dies, it's like this huge thing, like a family member died or something, because they created something that made the human experience more bearable for you.
Who's your artist that you're going to cry about once they pass, if they haven't passed already?
Definitely the first two that come to mind are Lights. I just made a little cover of one of her songs, and then Grimes, especially Grimes these days. I don't know. She's just inspired me so much lately. And she's talked about like stopping music in a way. And I'm like, no, please don't. Like, I'll be so depressed.
I totally get that. So I want to keep touching on your rebranding. Like, I don't know how much you want to go into it.
Let's go into it. Yeah, that's like the big thing I did recently.
Yeah. So when you say that how people remembered you and stuff, like what kind of changed within you where you just wanted to stop putting on that mask for people?
Yeah. Let me think. Well,
because you told me, you said that you came from a religious background, sort of a mission. Mm-hmm. I have never done that. I'm not religious myself, so I'm always curious, like, what's the conflict within that caused you to stray? You know, it's not stray, but stray. No. That was a weird. No, not stray, but refine yourself, refine your purpose, or redefine your purpose. You know,
for sure.
Stray is definitely a word that some would use, but not. I did not mean stray. I'm sorry.
You're good. That's like one of those trigger words. Just kidding. But wait, I'm curious. Were you ever religious, or were you like raised in religion, or never?
I was never. No, I was never baptized. My parents were both part of the LDS church, and they both left when I was like, I don't know, 10 maybe, but I was never baptized. The most that was ever done really was like a blessing when I was born, I guess, but I don't even know what that entails. So no, I'm not religious at all. And in fact, I'm not atheist either, but I'm critical of a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So maybe like agnostic, maybe. That's
a higher power of some sort. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm like basically on the exact same page. I think, you know, when people leave their religion, sometimes they want to throw the baby. Oh, wow. I just smacked the microphone. They want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know what I mean? And disown everything. And I'm not about that. Like, I actually still value a lot of things from my time in the church. And it's just a huge part of my identity. And it always will be. You know what I mean? It's a huge part of my identity, my history, my community. And so, yeah, I'm not trying to like disown all that. I'm grateful for a lot of the things.
Right.
But I guess how it all ties into my rebrand, or kind of what you were asking earlier about how people had remembered a different version of me. Wait, what was the question?
What kind of made you kind of redefine yourself? Like, what was was the moment where you no longer identified with your old self?
Okay. Yes.
You're reborn. You're rebirthed.
Deep stuff.
Revived.
Yeah. So I would say 2020. Oof, that was the year. Wasn't that just the year?
That was a shit year.
Yes. Like both collectively and individually. Okay. Collectively and individually, just chaotic. I had done something totally insane that year. I moved across the country for someone I was dating.
What?
Yeah. I looked back and I'm like, I did what? For whom?
Where'd you move to?
Ohio.
Okay.
And like, what is in Ohio, right? Nothing.
I have family that lives there. I question why too, but
yeah. Anyway, so I moved there and it was this huge thing. It was my first time that I had ever branched out on my own and lived far away from family and all that. And so it was a pretty refining experience in that way. But things happened there and with that relationship that just sort of like crushed me.
Yeah.
And I would say that sort of shattered like the previous self that I was. And then when I came home, I just was questioning a lot of things because I I don't know. It just kind of made me question my whole worldview. And so I would say 2020 was when that whole thing shattered. And then in 2021, I got close with someone else. I don't know. People are just very influential. The people that we let close to us really shape us. So the friend that I was close to in 2021, I want to say kind of rebuilt me. So I would say 2020 shattered me. 2021 like rebuilt it in just a different way and different outlook than I'd had before. I don't know if that's kind of vague and ambiguous, but that's basically how I would describe it.
Has there been like a lot of blowback on that?
With the rebrand?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, gratefully not yet anyway.
That's good.
I mean, I guess kind of, but I don't really mind it. Like no one has sent me like any hate messages or any messages like, oh, Cindy, what happened to you? You've been deceived by the devil or something like that. No, gratefully, none of that yet. But there was like a mass exodus of followers, kind of, or at least it kind of felt like it. And I think that is because people weren't expecting it from me or weren't vibing with it, and that's okay. Like I'm not bothered by that because it's like trimming the fat. You know what I mean? Like I'm finding the people who do want to support and do want to follow.
Yeah.
So I don't want to like post for anyone that isn't going to give me the right energy back, you know?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. So if 2021 is about the rebuild, what's 2022 about?
Ooh, I guess 2022 is like, well, maybe it could be just the coming out of all that, right? The sharing of it. Because, yeah, these past 2 years have been largely just personal, and now it's releasing that to other people. So maybe that's what this is. Like the fruition.
Yeah, kind of like just experiencing this new you. But then that brings the question, is it the new you or is it always been you?
Oh my goodness, that is a great question. I feel like even though I'm like presenting myself very different, I still feel like I resonate with a lot of, I don't know, you never really disown completely who you used to be. It's still like a part of who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's what's fun about the whole being extra with everything is obviously I don't go to the grocery store like this.
Why not?
So it's fun. Why don't I go with the sparkles and pink wig?
What's stopping
you? It's just kind of fun to exist on stage or on screen like this and then be a normal person when I'm not.
I get that.
Yeah.
So what have you learned since all this has gone down? Like, what's the biggest takeaway, would you say?
I just have to clarify, since I started like posting again, or since this whole
thing, this whole change.
Okay. What's one of the biggest takeaways? Oh, I feel like there's so many.
I don't know. This might not be your only change in life, down the road. I mean, there's going to be so many things, new chapters, essentially, right?
No, for real. Like, as people, we're very fluid, don't you think?
Yes.
Like, we're always reinventing ourselves.
Yeah, and it's actually one of my favorite poetic quotes from a controversial poet. Poemer? No, what's the word I'm looking for?
You had it. Poet.
Yeah. What the hell?
Boomer.
Poet. Charles Bukowski. He has a whole poem about inventing yourself and reinventing yourself.
Oh my gosh, you need to send that to me. I like it already.
I will send it to you.
Okay.
But he's a controversial asshole for sure. So he's like, whenever you bring him up, all these people are like, how could you like him? He's, all this.
He's supposed to be canceled.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I'm like, well, yeah, but he's been dead for years, and his writing's actually really, I don't know.
Sometimes the most interesting people are.
It's just a broken man, But anyway. Yeah. So like, what is your takeaway so far while starting this new chapter in your life?
I think one of the things is just the beauty in allowing myself to be more fluid, whether that's in my beliefs, like deciding what it is for myself that I think is true. Because when you're born into an organization that tells you you already have the truth, it kind of robs you of the search for it a little bit. So I've loved just studying different philosophies or different outlooks. And I hope that I want that to be a big part of what I do in my art, and what I write about is exploring. Just going
on a little adventure, like a hobbit.
Exactly.
That's cool though. That's really cool because I imagine we're close in age. I think
probably.
Like I'm not 30 yet. I don't know. Are you the big 3-0? No, not yet. So with this new chapter in your life, likewise, I'm going through some stuff too, not like artist wise, but personal stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And like you too, but it's interesting that there's new changes with like each decade, like near the end of each thing. Cause like 10 years ago, like it's like you're officially an adult, graduated from high school.
You're at a crossroads.
Yep. And then you choose if you want to go to college, or pursue something else, whatever. And then after all that's done, it's just like a mini chapter of like, well, what can we do then? But then as you near your 30s and all this, or for me at least, I don't know if you can relate, but it's just like a new everything going on in the world too. It's just like, what the fuck's going on? Like, wow. It's just crazy, but
it is.
It's interesting. True. It's interesting that we've always find new versions of ourselves with each chapter that we close.
I love that. Yeah. That's so true. Yeah.
And there's always more to come too. And not knowing what it is kind of exciting, but also like nerve-wracking.
I know. Embracing the unexpected. Kind of like we were talking about earlier, especially with tech.
Yeah. I don't want AI. I really don't.
One nice thing I've thought, and this is kind of a bummer. It's a bummer that we put expiration dates on people. Like we think, oh, once you're in your mid-30s, you can't do music or acting or whatever it is anymore.
That's BS. I don't buy that.
It is.
Do not buy that at all.
Yeah. And I can think of so many artists. Like some of my favorites are over 30. You know what I mean? But I did think, well, if it ever did get to the point where I've aged out of this, I'll just create a metaverse version of myself and I will live forever.
Just live in virtual reality.
Oh man, but that's depressing. But
I mean, no, because I follow a lot of screenwriters and just writers on Twitter and all that, and a lot of them didn't get their start until like they're almost 40. Like they had like a whole nother life before their current career, you know, like, and what it is just, it's hard work. It's dedication. It's the pursuit of telling the truth to yourself, you know, writing stuff, creating music, like something that resonates with you and not making it for a mass appeal. And if whatever you write, if it has a mass appeal, that's great. I mean, that's a compliment, you know, like, oh, some people relate to this. It's like, oh, thank you, you know, and that can lead to, you know, job opportunities down the road, which is cool. But I don't think there's an expiration date. You could be 60, 65, 70 and have a banger, you know, like,
yeah.
Like let's say,
Even Nix is touring and she's what, 73? There you go.
There you go. Exactly. Who else is touring? I feel like there's another old people touring. I don't know. So I don't buy that expiration thing.
Me neither. And also a huge part of that, it's like you were saying, all those elements that you were talking about before. And also I think just self-development. Like for me, these past 2 years, like I've been saying, have transformed me into someone that like, I feel like, yes, like this is the artist I'm supposed to be. But if you were to take me at like 22, like, I don't know.
I
don't feel like
right?
that's what I was supposed to do. Yeah.
And so I guess that asks the next question of where you are now, where do you want to see yourself in the next 5-10 years? Like, how do you think you'll look back on where you are now in that time period?
I hope that the me 5 years from now is thankful to me because it has been a lot of hours being put in to learn music production and stuff. You know what I mean? And I hope she'll thank me for being brave and overcoming my self-consciousness. And what I hope for her, the me 5 years from now, I hope she's just still sticking with it. You know what I mean? I hope she's more progressed than I am. She better be. I want to, you know, like have some songs out, be performing. I also really value family life. So I hope I have like a life partner then. And I don't think that's asking for too much. And I hope I'm finding like my audience and the people that my stuff resonates with. And I'll be happy with that, honestly.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Well, now I feel like asking you that.
Huh. That's funny. I don't know.
It's just a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just like a question, damn it. A part of me right now feels like I'm at crossroads of the 9-to-5 job and then, you know, the craft.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a huge tug of war.
It is a tug. It's like, you know, being Bruce Wayne or Batman, you know, which one's more badass? Batman, right?
Clearly.
So in 5-10 years, I don't know. I hope I at least, you know, I hope I make either be it film or writings or whatever, photography, you know, I hope I just continue making cool stuff that I love and that people can, you know, also resonate with. And yeah, it'll be interesting.
For sure.
There's just, and yeah, without going into too much detail though, just stuff with personally where they are right now too. It'll be interesting to see if that has any influence. That's me being vague, but.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I know what you mean. Stuff you're going through personally right now. How's that? Yeah.
How's that going to play out in the end? And like, will I be able to look back and be like, it's okay. Yeah. We could talk about that even off camera if we want to, but
I think I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of your fears then of all this? That's a very broad question, but you know, what are your fears?
Wait, expand. Wait, my fears of doing art or
doing art, yeah. what's one fear that's been very relevant from day one to now, but it's become like your friend? Because I feel like fear can also be used as a friend.
As a friend. Ooh.
Because especially if you embrace it, right? Like if you embrace it and understand why it's there.
I guess maybe it kind of ties in maybe to things I mentioned earlier. Well, I don't know. Like I said, this content creation and music production thing that I've been doing has been a largely solo feat or like endeavor. So I guess collaborating is kind of scary. I don't know. I admire how you can like get your scripts out there to table reads, and even, you know, how you did that whole short film with a whole crew and cast of people. Like, that's awesome. So I guess collaborating, something I need to work on, something scary, but I don't know. It's got to be pretty rewarding.
It has to be, yeah. Because if you're collaborating and it's not rewarding, like what's the payoff? Like why?
Exactly.
I get that. That's annoying.
Yeah. And I'm always, you know, trying to overcome my, like I mentioned, self-consciousness and second guessing. So, but when you're collaborating, it does give you a good opportunity to get over that. So kind of like you're saying, maybe fear of being a friend.
Have you found, because since you mentioned like second guessing, have you found that if you listen to your gut, like, your intuition as you know it, like you find that there's a better reward at the end?
That's the hope.
But has it been so far?
With certain decisions in my life that I feel like I was following my gut or my heart for, I question it. I'm like, what did that even amount to?
It amounted you to being where you are now.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. It's like I had to go through it, you know? Oh, I guess so. I guess that's the scary thing about like battling your intuition or like following your gut or whatever, is you wonder if it's going to pay off. But usually it's in your gut for a reason, right?
Yeah, it's a gut feeling. It's a gut.
You need to learn from it. Yeah. Like you shouldn't repress it, right?
I mean, unless it's falling out of you, then no. But so on your intuition though, now have you learned to trust it a little bit more, like your gut feeling?
I think so. And I think it has been worth it to follow my intuition and come out as this new persona that I want to be, because I don't know, I haven't gone too far with it yet. I've only made maybe 5 posts, but it's already been having responses. Like that's how I ended up on this show with you, which I thought was really cool. Like, damn, yeah, I want to be on his podcast.
But I've been meaning to reach out to you for a while too. That's the thing.
Oh, really?
I literally have been, and like you crossed my mind when I made a list. I made a list, right? I'm like, I've never met Cindy.
Oh, but what?
Yeah. And this is like, did I start this in 2020? I think I started this in 2020.
Okay.
Damn.
Like your quarantine project?
It was the pastime. And it's become just like, I don't know, just a minor hobby, I guess. But
yeah,
you have been on the list to talk to for a while, but then, you know, you kind of went off the grid.
Yes.
And then I don't get on Instagram often or Facebook or whatever. And so then seeing you, you know, I was like, oh, will she be down for a podcast? I don't know.
Hell yeah. So yeah, I want to say it's had some cool responses. Like I ended up on this show, and then Lights, one of my favorite artists, she's been like liking a few of my posts, and she even like showed up in my DMs. That was weird.
What?
That was surreal. Yeah, she told me that she liked my outfit, but it was like weird. It was like, whoa, like I've idolized you for 10 years and here you are in my DMs. This is surreal. And then what else? Another goal I had with it was that I wanted fashion photographers to want to shoot with me. And I wanted them to want to come up with concepts that encompass the brand, you know, and that's been happening. So it's been paying off so far. So yeah, like listen to your intuition.
There you go. That's exciting. I'd lose my shit if somebody DM'd me that I followed.
Right? It was surreal.
How do you hope you can inspire others?
I hope I can inspire others. I hope, that they see something in me or in what I put out that resonates with them, and maybe it will inspire them to share themselves in a way more authentically. Maybe encouraging people to be who they really want to be and who they are. It's maybe one of the most meaningful things we can do. So perhaps that.
I agree with that. we always want, I feel like, just people to be the best versions of themselves.
Yes.
Regardless of whatever timeline we're living in now.
Yes. Because there's too many things in life that just make you want to be a robot, whether that's your 9 to 5 or whatever it be. So like inspiring people to do whatever breaks them out of that mold. It's kind of like real happiness. And I think, we're put here on the earth to do that.
Yeah. I can vibe with that. And then what's one piece of advice that has stuck with you throughout the years, and how do you apply that?
Piece of advice that stuck with me.
Is that a loaded question?
No, it's a good question. I just wonder if I'm going to feel like I'm repeating myself because maybe it would be kind of like what we were mentioning earlier about following your intuition, because it's got to have some kind of payoff. And if you don't do that, you're going to have regrets.
Truth. It's true. I always find if I go against creating something when I feel like I should be creating something, it makes me more depressed.
Yes.
Like, bam. And then
Totally.
I just sit there in that moment and be like, I could be doing so much more.
Oh my gosh. Have you read the book, The War of Art?
No, somebody's recommend that I read it, but I have not read it.
Yeah, I'm going to be recommending it to you too. So it's so good. Like the main concept of that book is how like even pursuing art is a war. And there's this thing called the resistance, which is like everything that's all the obstacles that like get in the way from you doing your art.
Yeah.
And it's just, it takes discipline. The way that you look at it, you have to like really commit to it and do it basically all the time, even when you don't feel motivated. And that's how you can overcome the resistance. But there's there's a lot of times where I've let the resistance like have victories over me. You know what I mean? Like those times in my life where I'm not performing or not creating, like you said, you just feel like depressed or like something's missing. And then when you do overcome the resistance or all these obstacles that get in your way, I don't know if this happens to you, but like when I'm working on music production, I'm like, why do I let so many things get in the way of like me doing this? Like I'm obviously at my happiest right now. Like, why is it that's just kind of the nature of it.
It is the nature of it. And it's weird. It's weird how the littlest of things can have the biggest impact on what means the most to us.
Mm.
But if we're going back to like the size of the universe and all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so massive. And we're not even like the speck of dust on the map. We're nowhere to be found. And yet we make all these issues our biggest problems. There's so much bigger things out there.
So true. Mind-boggling thought. Yeah. Seriously.
But anyway, that's all I got for you. You got anything else you want to touch on? What's your favorite hair color? We'll ask that real quick.
Ooh, that is a fun question. Oh my gosh. I think I have like 20 wigs at this point. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling the pink. This is fun. I like the split dye, like the e-girl, half blonde, half black. I got this really cool one that I'm going to do in my next run of content that I'm going to shoot. It's like grayish, but it has color in the front.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's fun to play around with wigs.
That's cool. Okay, well, on that note then, Where can people find you?
Well,
Drop all your stuff, your knowledge on
yeah.
socials.
It's funny that you say you use Twitter the most because that's the one I use the least. I'm going to have to go on your Twitter to get an example of how it's done.
Might be a bad way, but okay.
So not Twitter. That's the first answer. You can find me on Instagram. That's the platform I'm using the most. Gonna try to get on the TikTok thing. Everyone's saying that's the platform you got to be on to grow. So I'll make an effort, I guess, there. Yeah, like I said again, it's still kind of a recent endeavor getting back into this, but those will be the places. And then hopefully later on this year and next year, Spotify. So
yeah, depending on whoever's listening to this at whenever, that's sometime in 2023 or whatever, the Spotify link will be in the show notes.
Yes, and we'll have songs on there.
Yeah. TikTok's an easy way to get found ish.
Right? Yeah, that's how a lot of people seem to be building.
Yeah, and the thing with that, though, is you have to be consistent too, which I'm not.
So that's what I've heard.
Congratulations.
I know. Oh my gosh, I've heard that you have to post like 1 to 3 to 5 times a day.
Fuck that. I can't compete with that. That's why yeah, that's just off topic. Anyway, okay. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's fun. Nice to finally talk to you.
You too.
After all these mutuals, networking and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was fun hanging on here.
Yeah, and it's cool to see you out of the woodwork. So welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Chaz.